Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. So, welcome to this session. This session will highlight key changes in version 3, so transitioning from version 2 to version 3. Um, we'll go along the key changes, but we'll also actually provide a demonstration of the new version at the end. So, just to go over the timeline, the target release date for Edge version 3 has been announced for September 18th. As you can see, we do have training that will be provided throughout. This first training session is for full Edge license admin users, and that will just give everyone a chance to test out this new version, get the training first, and if there is any feedback or any concerns with version 3, we can then submit that feedback to UK. After September 18th, we will roll out training for reporting portal users as well. And just to know, as we're going over this, this session is really focused on the overview of version 3 and the key changes, but we also do have individual modules that touch on more specific topics, such as patient management, document management, finance. And all of those folders are located in version 2 of Edge and the 3CTN member resources, which we can show at the end as well. And just to note, finance does have a lot of changes, so that will be a separate session for that. And similar to this, we'll provide a poll where you can select which session you would like to attend. So we'll start off with just some key changes, kind of going over what's been introduced in Edge, but also any new terminology. So this table just highlights all the new changes that have been introduced, new front technology, more improvements for folders and files. There's the opportunity to tag departments. Finance has been improved. Auditing purposes have been improved. API capability is something that hasn't been introduced to this version of Edge just yet. Most likely will be in the system once it is live in Canada. And the last is improvements for workflow. So just to go over some of the terminology, just because there is a lot of significant changes of what the names are of some tabs, but also where they've been relocated. The biggest one is the library. We don't have a library tab anymore. That's been merged with management. So as you can see, usually the layout was libraries, and then we go to entities and attributes. Now it is management, forms, and fields. So some terminology changes there as well, but also as location. And then this is just referring to library being now merged with management. Patients are no longer referred as patients in version 3. They're referred as participants, and that's just to really accommodate any projects that might not be related specifically to patients. So it's more of an word that could encompass a lot of more individuals. Global projects is now referred to as all projects. Funders and sponsors, to get to this section, you'd actually have to go to stakeholders first, and then you can add your funder name, your sponsor name. As you may recall, in version 2 for ARMS, we did have a separate tab named Project ARMS, but right now it's actually moved to the tab of configurations, and within configurations, you'll actually have 3 sub-tabs. Well, you'll have Project ARMS, where you can just list the arms. You'll have delegation log, and you will also have your project settings there. Event is no longer referred as events. It's now safety reporting. One of the other changes is allowing for patient transfer. It's just a terminology change. The functionality is the same. Before it did not occur here, now it's just ignore. And the other one is permission and visible level. It's actually a bit more intuitive. So we're no longer using the terminology of published or public. It's actually more specific. So it'll actually let you know whether you want it to be visible to your organization and collaboration, or just visible only to the selected teams that you've selected. So to kind of go through, I guess, the layout and the interface. So it is very different from what we're familiar with version 2. So we do suggest for everyone to really get familiar with the system, as it may kind of take some time to locate certain things and figure out where certain tabs are. But we still have our main tabs at the very front, at the very top, sorry. So we have home, management, projects, sites, participants, which is now no longer called patients, but participants now, reports and support. And then we have all of our items that are related to those sections on the side here. And then everything would be generated to your right. And this is just a layout that's been more optimal for mobile devices. So a lot of the layout is now friendly, is mobile friendly. So to go over key changes for the home screen. So one of the new features is the dashboard. So this dashboard kind of includes a variety of widgets that you can toggle on and off. So for example, you have your notifications, appointments, favorite projects, newsfeed, the add participant button, the last viewed projects, my reports, delegation logs, my workflows. So depending on which widget you would like to show up on your home screen, you can just toggle it on, and that just customizes your home screen. So for example, if you want notifications but don't really want your appointments, you can actually select that ahead of time, and then you just save it. Just to note that when you do first access your Edge UAT, you will have a blank home screen, and that's just because you haven't had the chance to edit your dashboard. You'll have an edit dashboard button at the very top, and then you can just select your widgets and select the layout. So this is an example of what that looks like. You can actually resize them, move them around as well. So in this example, we have our favorite projects, reports, notifications, add participant, last viewed projects, appointments. So in version 2, if you may recall, we had organizations names located at the very top in a banner, but now we actually have it located at the bottom. So for example, for 3CTN, we have it here at the bottom as well. This is just useful for anyone who has multiple logons. That way you can just double check to make sure which organization you're logging in from. But it's no longer at the top, it's just at the bottom. So just some location changes. So to move on to management, there is a few changes here. Number one being that library tab that we were often referring to, that is no longer present in Edge v3. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist anymore. It's just been merged. So a lot of your v2 library items have just been added to the version 3. There's just arranged on the side, which I can show in the next slide here. So as you can see, anything that's labeled with this blue star is just all of your library items, and they're all here: your training courses, your forms, workflows, finance, custom list, folder templates, site import templates, data collection plans. And then if you recall, we don't refer the shared global templates. It's now called catalog. So this is one of the key changes here in the management tab. Another feature that was added is the drag and drop document feature. So you can actually drag documents from your computer folder, your desktop, and you can drop them here. You can also see the version history a bit better as well. So it'll actually label which version it is currently. So this one was the first one, this one was the second, and then who it was uploaded by, also when it was uploaded. So to move on to the project section, so similar to how it was for version 2, this is just more a different layout. So before we did have our search engine at the very top, and the results were following below that, but now we actually have the search engine here, and any of the results would be generated on your right. And then just to note, within scope, we have our assigned projects, organizational projects, and now we have all projects instead of global projects. So the search projects, just the layout, it's fairly similar to what we had in version 2. You still have your core details, your identifiers, your geographical scope, your participant types. It's just how it's organized that's a little different. And then in terms of your project level tabs, that's still to your left here. And one thing just to know, I guess, in terms of the site level navigations, before in Edge version 2, we'd had that green banner. Now we still do have that green banner, it's just a little smaller. And we have an icon here in green. So this just indicates you are at the project site level, which we always associated with the green banner. And if you were to move to the project site level, the icon would then turn red, and you would have just that tiny little red line that goes across the screen there. So one of the other features that were added in is copy assignments without the need of creating a team. So before in Edge version 2, we'd have to create a team before we could copy assignments, but this has made it much quicker. You can actually just search for your source users, whoever you're trying to copy from, and then just follow along the same actions as before, whether that's merging, and then if you want to keep the staff roles. In terms of adding yourself to a project, so now you can actually just click the Add Me button, and it just adds you more quickly into the project. So some changes to note on this page as well. This is the configuration tab, which now includes your project arms, your delegation log, and your project settings. Project arms is just where you would include your information about the arms. And then you have your delegation log, and from here you can actually customize it on a project by project basis. You can reorder the number, and this is it just allows you to change any of the project responsibilities based on your project needs. So moving on to project site. The layout is very similar to what we've noticed with the project level. You have all of your information here, your core details, your milestones, your approvals, your key staff, and then you have your project site level tabs at the side here. One other thing that's actually been made much easier in version 3 is adding a new project site. So a new feature is that you can add multiple sites you would like to add to this project. So instead of having to add a site one by one, you can actually select all of them and just add them in. And to kind of show the delegation log more in detail, so this is just an example of a delegation log where myself, Diana, and Rebecca are added in. And then clicking on Rebecca, you can see the responsibilities are labeled here. And she can tick which ones she would be responsible for, and that would then go to the PI to approve. Oftentimes, this isn't something that, we use here in Canada in terms of the delegation log, having it here on Edge, but it is much easier, and if you have a very active PI, then this is something that you can consider. Another feature that we did want to highlight is the audit mode. So we know that a lot of organizations use Edge to source as a source for their trials, and in order to be compliant, you need to have a good audit process and system. So this audit mode actually allows you to see in detail who has done what the data has changed to, when it was updated, etc. So I can show that in detail of what that looks like in the demo as well, but this is just to show what that looks like here, and you would just click on the clock icon to get all the details. So moving on to participant section. So our search engine is at the side. So we have our typical criteria: the last name, date of birth, subject ID, study ID, responsible physician last name. It is typically oftentimes that we use the subject ID. So this is these extra options are available to use if needed. And it's very similar to version 2 in the sense that this is for project sites. This participant tab is only something a user would be able to see if they have clinical access to the project. So if you can't see this tab, it often means you do not have clinical access, which you can go back and tick the box in order for you to see this tab. So for the finance section, so some key changes here as well. We will have a special session dedicated for finance, but we just wanted to highlight some of the key changes. So you can add a templated cost, or you can add a new cost from scratch. We've added departments. You can actually tag them based on the department the cost is associated with. You can also indicate if there is an overhead cost and whether that's been included or not. And then a new feature here is our invoice. And the invoice just allows you to group multiple costs in just one invoice. So we do have the finance tab available for the project site as well, and this is any cost that can be reflected here that's specific to the project sites. For example, we have ethics an annual renewal. We also do have participant finance costs as well. So this is for any specific procedures. You can mention what that is in the description and fill out the form. Another new thing that was added for finance was invoice reconciliation. So now you can reconcile payments, note whether they were partially paid or fully paid, and you can tick off these boxes, add comments as well. So more details to come in the finance module and the training session as well, where we'll go more into detail about this. So some key changes for workflow. One of the new features is the option of archiving workflows, because we know a lot of sites can have a lot of accumulate workflows. So having this new archive feature is actually really beneficial. You can archive the workflows. Other new features that are included is the departments being added. You can actually filter as well, especially if you have a lot of workflows. This really allows you to narrow down what you're looking for. You can edit clone options. You can also assign them to a team. And then you have these features and these icons here. So this is to archive, to clone, to edit, and to delete. Another thing that's been added is we actually have percentage available for workflows. So before, progress was usually indicated by a color: red, not started; yellow, in progress; or green, completed. But now it actually will show you a detailed percentage based on how many steps have been completed. So in this example, the color is still there. We still get a little green, yellow flag, but it shows you completion is 33%. And this is where users can also abandon or restore workflows as well. So moving on to the report section. So the layout is a little different from version 2. We have the type of reports located at the side here, and all the details of these reports would be generated on the right. Form just refers to your attributes, and then for project reports, you can have the forms, overview, notes, delegation log, and your RA confirmation as well. Just to know in terms of the differences between audit and legacy audit. Legacy audit is any audit that's been done in version 2, and this is just carried over. And it's just to make sure there's a distinction of what the audits were in version 2 versus what your new audits are in version 3. So any of your new audits would be accumulated in this tab here for audit, and then legacy audit is anything that's being carried over from version 2. And then for report manager, we have more options to share with users. So in this example, we have a few reports here, such as user training, site forms, participant monitoring, project workflow, invoices, cost events. And in the support tab is where we also have our knowledge base tab that just provides all these tutorial documents to just aid users in terms of each section, whether that's navigation, troubleshooting, or any frequently asked questions. Currently, there is no screenshots available in the support tab. In our slide decks, we do have screenshots, so we usually recommend using our slides complementary to these tutorial articles. And as a lot of this information is finalized, screenshots will be added into the knowledge base tab. And another thing to note in the support tab is videos. We do have a familiarization video from Edge. It's 48 minutes long, but helps admin users really get familiar with the new version. It just showcases any of the new fun features and functions that we've highlighted. But for anyone who's interested in specific topics, we do have timestamps here as well, so you can just skip to the section that you're interested in. And then in terms of UET tests with 3CTN, I know some of you may already have access, but if you would like access to this UAT version to kind of practice, take a look around, please drop your email in the chat and someone from our team can add you in. We recommend it. It's just easy for you to get familiar with the system, kind of take a look, play around with it. So let us know and just provide your email in the chat. So this is where our version 3 training modules are located in the current Edge that we're using, which is version 2 right now. So it's just under its 3CTN member resources. If you just go to files, you'll see all of the training modules here. For each of the training modules, we do have a survey link. So feel free to fill that out just to say which module you've completed. If there is any feedback, we can capture that as well and relate that back to you, Kay. And as well, there is a section if you want additional training. So if there's a specific section that you'd rather one-on-one training virtually, then you can note that there, and then we can get back to you for that. So now that we've kind of gone over the key changes in the slides, I just wanted to show what the UET version looks like and give a demo of that. So just to show here, this is your home screen. So currently right now, I do have my widgets already organized. But if you were to add or remove any of the widgets, you would just go to Edit Dashboard here. So as you can see, I have notifications on, favorite projects, add participants, last viewed projects. For me to remove anything, I can just toggle it on or off. And then you can just save it. You can actually resize them as well. So for example, if I want to see my notifications in a larger way, I can just drag it to make it longer, or I can actually move it as well if I want it here. So it really allows you to have more of a customized dashboard. You can move things around. You can remove them, add them as well. So you have your notes here as well. We haven't added a notes, but to add a note, it's very similar to what the functionality was in Edge 2. You can just add your note, save it. You have calendar as well. And then you have your documents. So this is where your general documents are. And we actually have our Edge version 3 training modules located here as well. So this is the home screen. So we can actually move on to the management tab. So within management, we have our users, our teams, training courses, projects, documents. So all of these subfolders are going to be labeled at the left here, and then everything's generated at the right. So for users here, this is where you can add users, remove users, assign what kind of access they have, very similar to what the functionality was in version 2. You have your teams here. You can create a team. Training courses, you can create your training courses here, add them in. Projects, this is where you would add your new projects. You can take a look at what the project involvement requests are, your collaborations. Documents, this is where you can actually add a new document that will then show up on the home screen under the general document section. And then you have your forms, which was what your attributes and entities were. So for example, here we have some of the forms that we've pre-populated. You also have your workflows. You have your governance workflows and your participant workflows, which is usually your interventional and observational default. You have your finance tab here where you can manage templates, import templates, custom lists. This is where you can create any customized lists to kind of help you create those drop downs easily for your forms. You have organization overview as well. So for example, we have 3CTN here, and then details as well. Partnership, folder templates. You can create folder templates to be added to the project site level, patient level. You have your site import templates. You also have your data collection plan, and that's usually what data is being collected for your participants here. So we have, for example, Canada and site-specific demo, participant import, and that's your bulk patient import, and then catalog, which is your global forms and workflows. And that's one of the key terminology changes that we've noted in that table before. So to move on to the project tab, as you can see, the layout is very different. It's a little bit more condensed here as well. So you can just open up the fills by clicking here. To go over kind of the terminology change again, so it's no longer global projects, it's all projects, but you can just select what the scope is. You have your short title. You can put your clinicaltrials.gov number here as well. And then it will just generate the results here once you clicked update results. So for example, if we were to click on this, you just click on the short title here, and then it would bring you to the overview page here. And we still have the option to, you can click start if that's one of the trials you want as a favorite project to show up on your home screen. And as you can see, you still have the same level of details, your core details here, your identifiers, your geographical scope, participant types. And to show you what that audit mode looks like, so you have audit mode here, and once you click on the little tick box, you can actually see this clock that's generated. So for example, we'll use target size, and you can see that there was changes made. You can see when they were made, who made them, and what was the change. So the change was 244 to 24, and then it was changed back to 244 again. And this was just for a demo purpose, but just to show you what the audit history looks like. And then to remove the audit mode, you just untick the box. So you have all of your project level information here generated at the left. So you have your sites, your staff, your documents, you have your forms, your workflows here as well. And as you can see, this is where the status is shown, green with the percentage of 100%, red with 0%. You have your notes here as well. And then you have finance, where you can add a templated cost, add a new cost, and you also have your invoices here. So an example here, you have your department that's been labeled, the state which is fully paid, and all of the information will be generated here. You have your organization information, collaborators, criteria. So this is where you can add the exclusion criteria, as well as design. So whether that's interventional, observational. And another thing to note, before we could add the actual link or the website to the overview page, but that is now in the criteria. So within project support, you can add the information for the website. So in this case, we just have the clinicaltrials.gov link. Stakeholders is where you can add your funders and your sponsors. So you can just add a funder and select from here and then save. And the same process for sponsors as well. Statistics are just your stats for your projects. Configurations, this is where you have your project arm. So you can add the project arm for the project. You have your delegation log here as well. So you can type in the responsibility and number it as well. So you can see there's reorder responsibilities, add a new responsibility. And then you also have your project settings here. This is just specific to Edge, but what we need is more of the organization settings, and that's the allowing the patient transferring. So that's where this is located now. And then you have your import participant. So very similar to version 2, you would just download the import template here, fill it out, and then import the participants. And then you have site management and KPIs as well. So to go to show what the site level, so the project site level looks at. So for example, we have Abbotsford here and then BC Cancer Agency Vancouver Center. So for example, if you were to add a new project site, you would click here to add a new project site. You can search, or you can actually just tick the box, for example. So if we wanted to add more than one, if we wanted to add Prince George and Hamilton, you can actually select what the status is. And then you can actually add the information of when that status was active. So if you were to just click on the site name here, it will bring you to the project site level. And as you can see, it's denoted by that red icon and that red banner here. So you have all of the information, your core details, your milestones, your approvals, your key staff. One thing to note, in the core details, we have actual accruement. It's shown here. To add any documents to your site, you can add them here. To change access, you can click on this icon here, which is labeled as access permissions. So for example, for contract, if I want it visible to my organization collaborators, or visible only to selected teams, I can click that and then select the team that I would want this document to be only visible for them. And then you can just save. So I'll just keep it to what it was from before. You can also look at any of the revisions as well. You can edit any of the information here as well. So your forms and workflows would show up here. So for example, if you were to add a form, you can just add a new form here. For example, if we choose regulatory tracking, you can select the field, and then you can select the option here. So an example that we already have from past demos is regulatory tracking. We have assigned ethics staff, which is James in this scenario. Same for workflows here. You can add your workflows. You can add any specific notes. You have your finance, which is adding any cost that's related to the specific site. You have your collaborators as well, and then we have our metrics and clock. And previously we've had this version in version 2 in the overview page, but now we have it here, and it actually shows you the information for my organization as well as all organizations. Another feature that was added is the timeline here. So this is where all the dates of the status changes will show up. You can actually run this in your reports as well. So it will just show all the information here: when it was open to recruitment, what date, when it was suspended on hold, and as of today, what the status is as well. You have your delegation log. So this is where your responsibilities would show up here if you were assigned. In this example, I wasn't assigned any responsibilities, but we can see here James was, and these are his responsibilities, whether that went through user approval and PI approval. In the example that you received a responsibility, you would get a thumbs up icon here, and then you can click that, and that pretty much just means that you've approved that responsibility. So to add a participant, it's very similar to what the usual steps were for version 2. One of the newer changes is that it's no longer a pop-up, so everything that you do here will just be on this main screen. So for example, you can just add your participant. So we can add a subject ID here next, and then you can add your information here. So pre-screened on this date, action by, and then we have this ignore button here. So this is the same button for did not occur here. It's just ignore. So if you have the patient transferring ticked, you can click this option here if needed. So just to show I'm just not going to add a participant just because we have a lot of them here. So just to show what that example would have been, so you have our participant that you can click on here, and then you would get brought to their participant details, the overview page, their status, any identifiers, emergency contact information. And then we have safety reporting. And this is where we see the SAE reporting. So you can actually add a safety reporting same to version 2, and you can fill out the information here. So for event type, you could click adverse event, just fill out any of the relevant information and then save. You can also include any appointments, finances, anything that's specific, any cost related specifically to the participant, and then you have forms and documents here as well. So to move on to the reports tab here, this is where you can run your reports. You have all of your report types labeled here. So in this example, if we were to run a report for forms, we can click Run Report. Very similar to the same process that we were doing in version 2. It's just the layout that looks different, so I can kind of show what that looks like. For example, if you were to load a reports for this demo purpose, we'll do version 3 report demo. We'll do exercise 1. And similar to before, you can add your filters, and then you would just click Run, and all of your information will just be generated here below. So you have also your management, which we've showcased here before. You have all of your information here. For example, you can also move any of your queries here as well. And this is what we were referring to in terms of the audit versus the legacy audit. So recall any of your audit information for version 3 would be generated here, and then legacy audit is anything that's been carried over from version 2. And then lastly, we have our support tab. So within the knowledge base tab, we have all of those tutorial articles that we've mentioned, that's been labeled and sectioned off here. And then we also have our videos, that familiarization video. We have it for users, admin users here, and then you also have those timestamps of what the video content is if you just want to jump forward to that specific topic. And you also have release notes just to see what's new, what's been updated, what's to come, any of that information here. So that's just the navigation of version 3. Is there any questions or any concerns?
Reza, can you show the training file of today in the version 3?
Yes, so if you just go to the home screen here, and you go to documents, you'll see all the organization documents, and Edge version 3 training is where we've have all of our information. So Edge version 3 info session is today's session. So our slides are all there with screenshots, and same going forward from module 1 to module 13. And if anyone needs access to this UAT version, please just type in your email in the chat, and Rebecca, James, and I can activate your account.
So we already activated Jennifer and also Yana, for this UAT access. Are there any parts that you would like us to show a little bit more? So I've